Back again. Want to show you guys something. And see what is your opinion on this topic. And a lot. What I'm about to show you, a couple of content creators created some really interesting topic about how, as black people, what we go through. But I'm gonna let you
better quality of care. It should just be available to everybody.
I'll be back with my commentary.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to my channel, Runaway Slave. This channel was created to promote my self-published masterpiece, The N-Word is No Secret in the Service. I wrote this book after I spent over 10 years as an officer in the United States Secret Service. During this time, I learned what true foundational, institutionalized, or systemic workplace racism is and how it affects my people. If you would like to purchase this masterpiece, just click the link down in the description. If you enjoy the content and would like to support the channel, please continue to like, share, and subscribe. In addition, if you would like to make a donation, we do have a cash app, which is $RunawaySlave609. Okay, let's cook.
Yeah. Why? Because white people don't like black people, don't want to live with them, and sure don't want to go to school with them.
And that's not good.
I mean, please, just deal with it. Deal with it. Decentralization didn't work. Why didn't decentralization work? It didn't work because there was not enough money to implement it, and taxpayers don't want to pay any more money to educate, and at least not black people in the center cities. So, anywhere you go, but I don't even want you to deal with the what do you call it, anecdotal knowledge. I want you to deal with the studies. How about the study that they did in Northwestern, where the students sent out applications for jobs using names, black names and white names? How about that one? So Lakeisha Washington and Jamal Jones didn't get the job, but Brendan Fraser and Emily Walsh did? I mean, now how much clearer can you be that whiteness is important? But then what?
Hurry to Kohl's for last-minute gifts they'll love under $25, like stocking stuffers starting at $3.99 in coupon, silver.
What do you say? But then what do you say to?
Okay, yes, let's talk about that study right there. Let's talk about that study. And people like to ask, why does it always have to be about race? Anybody who asks you that, that's over the age of 18 in the United States of America, when you bring race into any factor, right? And they ask you, why does it always have to be about race? That person themselves is a racist. Is a sick racist. And to them, black people should be very, very, very low on the totem pole, and are to the point where you shouldn't even be asking about. You need to just accept this and take this. This is the mindset of a person who says to you, why does it always have to be about race? You ask a black, a melanated person that, go ask the people who made it like that. Okay, so let's talk about this study. This study was done by researchers at Northwestern University, Harvard, and the Institute for Social Research in Norway. Now, what did they do? They looked at every available field experiment on hiring discrimination from 1989 through 2015. Now, the researchers found that anti-black racism in hiring is unchanged since 1989, while anti-Latino racism may have decreased modestly, okay? This is what they found. The researchers who headed this study from Northwestern University were named Lincoln Quillen, John Lee, and Mariana Oliver. Now, what they did is they looked at two kinds of experiments, which were resume experiments and in-person audits, which that was a good part of this research study, because they covered both of them. They covered the unseen and the seen. We see you and we don't see you. So basically they split this thing up into two parts of the hiring process to cover everything. In the first part, they send out resumes with similar levels of education, experience, and so on. But the names on the resumes differ, right? So basically, they had stereotypically black names and stereotypically white names and Latino names, right? This is what they did on the resumes, but the level of experience and education was the same. Now, in the second part of this experiment, they had applicants go in person to apply for a job. When they go in person and apply for this job, they each share the same qualifications, but some people that came in are white, others are brown melanated, black melanated, dark melanated, but white, black, and Latino from what we know. Okay? Now, this means that the person who came in applying for the job actually came in the flesh. So you can see their skin, you can see their hair, you can see their eyes, you can hear their voice as they are applying for the job in the second part. Remember, the first part is resume, the second part is coming in the flesh. Okay, now, in total, right, the researchers produced 24 studies with 30 estimates of discrimination for black and Latino Americans. Collectively, this represented more than 54,000 applications submitted for more than 25,000 positions. Yeah, they covered a lot here. What was the conclusion to this study? They concluded that on average, white applicants received 36% more callbacks than equally qualified African Americans, while white applicants receive on average 24% more callbacks than Latinos. It's very simple to understand. You get it? Let's not overanalyze this thing, overthink it. It is what it is. It's straight racism. So when people bring this thing up, when you go apply for a job or whatever, you know, some people not worthy of a job. We know that. We know that some people just straight ignorant and they're just not worthy of a job. Especially if they went in person, they may not have represented themselves right. They may got tattoos on their face. I don't know. They just look like somebody you don't want representing your company. I don't know. We know that. We know that, but you can't bring that up because this is an actual study. Resumes and in person, similar qualifications and education. Conclusion? They concluded that on average, white applicants receive 36% more callbacks than equally qualified African Americans, while white applicants also receive an average of 24% more callbacks than Latinos. So people, nah, you ain't crazy. You ain't crazy when you bring this stuff up. Now here's another kicker. They also found no evidence of changes over time in rates of hiring discrimination for black people, with anything but the slight possibility of a slow decline ruled out by these studies. They also said with Latinos, the evidence indicates a possible decline in discrimination, although this trend is outside of the conventional levels of significance. This means that concerning the Latinos, the data isn't statistically significant enough to draw a conclusion. So they just kind of giving a benefit of a doubt when no, it's a no. That was concerning Latinos. For black people, they found no evidence of change over time in rates of hiring discrimination for black people, with anything but the slight possibility of a slow decline, which was ruled out by studies. So this means that based on this deep study that they did, right, y'all? Based on this study, they see no changes in the foreseeable future. They say that the only chance of a change is a slight possibility of a slow decline, and that's it. But as far as the change, when it comes to racism and applying for positions and people getting picked just because they're white over black, no, that's not happening. That's not happening according to this research. The researchers, right, they deployed a variety of controls to verify their results, from measuring outcomes in different ways to controlling for socioeconomic variables like geography and unemployment rates. But they concluded In all models, we see little evidence of a reduction in hiring discriminations against African Americans over time. This is what the researchers said. They ain't black. They ain't black. Listen to this caveat, y'all. The main findings in his research only go back to 1989. But the research notes that they said, this is what the researchers said. Note that our results do not address the possibility that hiring discrimination may have substantially dropped in the 1960s or early 1970s during the civil rights era when many forms of direct discrimination were outlawed, as some evidence suggests. Now listen to this again. Its findings in its research only go back to 1989. So the study that they did, it only goes back to 1989. Now the people who did this research, being the researchers, they know, this is what they said. Our results do not address the possibility that hiring discrimination may have substantially dropped in the 1960s or early 70s during the civil rights era when many forms of direct discrimination were outlawed, as some evidence suggests. Now that part is laughable, y'all. Just go ahead and laugh at that. Laugh at that, right? Because this is what they're saying. They're saying that this study right here only goes back to 1989 until about the current time, right? And they're saying that hiring discrimination may have substantially dropped in the early 60s or early 70s during the civil rights era. I'm sorry, in the 1960s or early 70s during the civil rights era. That's laughable. So pretty much what they're saying is, this is what they're saying when they say that. Things may have improved from slavery and Jim Crow to the civil rights era. So they're saying things may have improved, right? In the 60s, from slavery to Jim Crow, when the civil rights era had came, the numbers may have improved for black people applying for jobs. So basically, an example for that is, I'm giving you my example, I'm trying to make it make sense based off of what that study said. So in 1920, a company, right? Just say they had no black employees in 1920. Out of 2,000 employees, we have no black employees. A company, right? But in 1968, anytime between 1960 and the early 70s, just say in 1968, when black people became more vocal and started screaming about civil rights and getting out there doing and being active, this same company that had no black employees out of 2,000, they hired 8 employees. So that's an increase, right? So as far as a study, you could say, well, we went up whatever percent in black employees. And in 1920, we didn't have any out of 2,000. Now we have 8 black employees out of 2,000. That's pretty much what that means. And I don't think these researchers were trying to give them no points. I think they're just trying to, give a little bit of balance, because the results to this research was so disgusting. They're like, well, maybe before we went back to 1989, so before that time, maybe it got better. Of course it got better. You're going from slavery and Jim Crow to the civil rights era. So a company might have said, okay, well, let's hire 9 black people, 7 black people. And just imagine the jobs they had. Look at Abraham Bolden's story. Abraham Bolden was the first black person on the detail for the United States Secret Service. They had him standing on a part of the boat, or standing by the bathroom all day doing nothing, or standing by the part of the boat when they were out on detail where all the water sprayed him and made him soaking wet. That was his job. Come on, man. And that's just him. There's many others, y'all. There's many others. So that pretty much sums it up, y'all. So they can say anything about increasing, employment from way back then, because you're coming from a time when it was very, very normal to just lynch and beat a black person, put him in jail, sundown towns, all that. You know what I mean? So, still, with this research, y'all, some findings are telling. Now, here's another part. Since the height of the crack cocaine era, now I must add, crack cocaine era, which was done by the government, by drugs that were put in black neighborhoods purposely by the government, okay? We gotta include that when we say this about the crack cocaine era. So they're saying since the crack cocaine epidemic and all of the racism associated with that epidemic in the 1980s, anti-black racism in hiring does not appear to have changed. This may help explain why, for example, unemployment gaps between black and white Americans have also barely changed over time, and why racial wealth and income gaps are still so bad. So basically they're saying since the crack era, in the 80s, since the crack era to now, anti-black discrimination in hiring does not appear to have changed. There you go. This research wasn't done by me, so it wasn't biased. It wasn't done by you, the listener. You know what I'm saying? So the bottom line here is whether you get a job in America, it can come down to your race, point blank, period. And it's likely as true as it was in the crack era as it is today. So where's this progress at then? Where's this imaginary progress that these people are talking about? This is getting better. That's hope. You running off hope batteries, man. Ain't nothing got better, yo. Nothing got better. Now, it don't end there. Now, it's not part of the study. I'm just adding my 2 cents right here. Just imagine how bad it is when you get the job. When you're that black person that slips through the cracks and you're selected for the job. What about all the racism coming from human resources, your manager, co-workers, people who are in a position of power to dictate how you live and eat, but they happen to be racist? You know how frustrating that is? You know what kind of racial battle fatigue that causes for a person? You know what it takes to adapt to that? Some black people die because of that, yo. Because of racial battle fatigue at work. End up in a hospital. You know what I mean? And that's an entire different beast. But that's dealing with work. And that's what the majority of my book, The N-Word is No Secret in the Service, is about. Workplace employee discrimination and how I seen what it really was in the government, And this is something that we all experience. All black people, we all experience workplace discrimination. Any black person who said that they don't experience this racism they could be either very ignorant to what racism is, or there's somebody who, because racism is so embedded in the fibers of the job of human resources, they go in with automatic low access to humanity. And I talk about that in the book. Those black people that say, okay, well, you can't do that because you're black type stuff. And they accept it as the norm. You know what I mean? So these are people that are just like, that's the way it is. So to them, they deal with racism a little better because they have a low access to humanity, to their humanity. Whereas somebody who got theirs, you're going to deal with it. You're going to struggle harder, yo. Because dealing with these white supremacists at work is a beast. It's a beast. And you know it. And we all know it. You know what I mean? But there you go, y'all. There's the study. Easy.
Family and fellow soldiers.
This was largely due to a growing internationalist and Pan-Africanist outlook among its members. Members like a woman named Ethel Minor. As a journalist, she quickly became...
Sorry about this.
And the resistance has been controversial and intolerable to many people. That is especially the case with the favorite tools of the ruling class: media pundits, politicians, and celebrities. These people make up what some like to call a misleadership class. Those so-called leaders who are shoved in our faces as people we should follow, but have genuinely nowhere to take us. These African misleaders who support Israel have become more and more visible.
Hamas must be disbanded and destroyed immediately.
And lots of people I know are confused about that. Like, what are you doing, LeBron James? The American Israel Public Affairs Committee, or AIPAC, the most influential pro-Israel lobbying group in the U.S., has greased the palms of black Congress members with around $3.6 million since February 2022. They have also historically targeted black candidates and elected officials who won't fall in line to support Israel. So it should come as no surprise that the black misleadership class have consistently backed Israel. The truth is that there is a long history of Zionism attempting to attach itself to African people and our liberation struggles. Here's a quick history lesson. It's 1920, and there's a man named Chaim Weizmann who's just taken over as president of the World Zionist Organization. If that sounds familiar to you, it's because it's the name of the organization founded by Theodor Herzl, the founder of Zionism, a political ideology that has tried to hijack Judaism for imperialist causes. Quick disclaimer, not all Jews are Zionists, not all Zionists are Jews, word to y'all boy Biden.
You need not be a Jew to be a Zionist.
Anyway, Weizmann comes into the leadership of the org, and one of the first things he does is a speaking tour in the United States. He thought it would be valuable to seek out the support of African people in the U.S., and was connected easily to the black church by Stephen Wise, a popular U.S. rabbi who later went on to become one of the founders of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or what many in the U.S. call the NAACP. Weizmann came up with the idea of going on a tour of black churches, and it was set up with the support of Wise and a combination of individuals and organizations. His goal was to garner public support for the establishment of a Jewish nation. During his time in the U.S., arrangements were made for Weizmann to meet with a number of prominent leaders and other African clergy. At the time, it was really easy to exploit the idea baked into the word Zion, especially among African followers of the Bible. And that's because in the U.S. at the time, you had millions of Africans whose ancestors had been stolen from Africa, forced into slavery, only to fight their way out and find themselves in a living hell. Jim Crow, widespread lynching, straight up apartheid. Unfortunately, it was too easy to convince a lot of Africans in the U.S. that their idea of returning home and the Zionist idea of returning home were the same. A lot of our heroes fell for this political trickery. In 1948, W.E.B. Du Bois wrote an entire address to the American Jewish Congress titled America's Responsibility to Israel. Though I have to point out that he later revised his position on this. And in many cases, Zionists were also able to twist the words and sentiments of such figures after they died to associate their causes with Zionism. By the 1950s, the civil rights movement was in full swing in the United States, and the Zionist cause found some support in the movement's biggest star, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., head of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. The SCLC was a predominantly Christian organization that employed nonviolent direct action strategies in the struggle for civil rights for Africans in the United States. And out of the SCLC grew a call for a new student-led initiative, one whose youthful vibrance and impatience with the status quo would come to evolve the ideology of the U.S. civil rights movements and buck up against the way the entire country talked about Zionism. Thus was born SNCC, short for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which was formed by young activists, including now prominent figures like Ella Baker, Diane Nash, and Julian Bond. SNCC began in 1960 as a political organization mostly focused on acquiring voting and civil rights for Africans in the U.S. But by 1967, their ideology had begun to adopt anti-capitalism and anti-imperialism. This was largely due to a growing internationalist and Pan-Africanist outlook among its members. Members like a woman named Ethel Minor. As a journalist, she quickly became the editor of the SNCC newsletter in the summer of 1967. This was a crucial turning point in the Zionist occupation of Palestine. That June, the world witnessed the 6-Day War. That's when, over the course of 6 days, Israel captured territories from its neighbors, including the Sinai Peninsula, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. In the midst of this, staffers at the SNCC newsletter decided the organization had a responsibility to speak out. As editor, Ethel Miner oversaw a rich print feature including an objective critique of the facts and an interactive game for Africans in the U.S. to test their knowledge of the Zionist occupation. The ending of her letter from the editor read as follows.
Since we know that the white American press seldom, if ever, gives a true story about world events in which America is involved, then we are taking this opportunity to present the following documented facts on this problem. These facts not only affect the lives of our brothers in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia, but also pertain to our struggle here.
The day these papers hit the streets was incredibly significant, because SNCC had officially posed a formidable challenge to the line on Israel held by the establishment of the U.S. Civil Rights Movement. And they pissed a lot of Zionists off too. Like, a lot. While it is true that many Jewish organizations in the U.S. financially supported the Civil Rights Movement, so did many Zionist organizations. And with SNCC's loud rebuke of Zionism came an even louder snatching back of them checks. Critics accused the language and graphics of the paper of being anti-Semitic, a common Zionist deflection tactic. They were slammed in the press as a Negro extremist group. Theodore Bickel, a popular U.S. singer and actor who claimed to be in solidarity with the Civil Rights Movement, wrote a whole hit piece called A Farewell to SNCC, where he denounced the young organization and rubbed MLK all in their faces. And unfortunately, when asked for comment on the SNCC newsletter, MLK himself hit them back. This is how Kwame Ture remembers it.
Any attack on Israel, this is quote, any attack on Israel, no matter how you camouflage it, is an attack on Semitism, is anti-Semitic. Hawking was confused.
The backlash against SNCC was swift and brutal. Kwame Ture, who was the acting chairman of SNCC at the time Miner issued the newsletter, said in 1988, once we attacked the state of Israel, SNCC was closed down in 3 months. Not only did the media go on attack, but the liberals, non-Jewish liberals, were jumping over each other to attack us. Though SNCC ultimately met its end, their anti-Zionist contribution to the U.S. freedom struggle birthed many formations. It was the bedrock of the anti-Zionist analysis of the Black Power movement in the United States, from the Black Panther Party to the Revolutionary Action Movement to the Republic of New Africa and the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. But it also spurred reactionary formations, like the Black Americans Support Israel Committee, or BASIC. Yes, BASIC. It was founded in 1975 by civil rights figures like A. Philip Randolph and Bayard Rustin. According to both of them, BASIC was designed to fight back against the efforts of newly independent African states that were trying to expel Israel from the United Nations, or at least condemn the Zionist state. Over the course of history, our consciousness of the Zionist occupation of Israel has evolved, but in many ways, we can still see how Zionism attempts to obscure our worldview. For young African people in the U.S. today, it's our responsibility to remember our people's path of radical solidarity against Zionism in the United States.
Well, that was different. Well, that was a quick, brief history. Shout out to for pointing that out. Now you know the truth behind Zionism and what it in details. I want to show you something.
McDonald's, Starbucks, Domino's. Just a few of the companies that have seen their sales nosedive as consumers are calling corporations out for their support of Israel's war on Gaza. How effective are these boycotts? Do they really hit brands and Israel where it hurts? I'm Annalise Borges, and this is The Stream.
This graphic was put together by the Boycott, Divestments, and Sanctions movement, which is the voice that we need to be listening to first and foremost when it comes to all these boycotts.
Starbucks and H&M are leaving the Moroccan market.
I'm going to show you how to make all of the drinks on the menu so you can enjoy them at home without having to spend your money and support Israel.
The first brand is Domino's Pizza.
ما تتاكلش بعفشة ووحشة.
Money talks. If a brand starts losing money and it's clear why, they're forced to make changes.
I'm a content creator who wants to use her platform, and I don't want to be supporting makeup brands that fund genocide and apartheid.
What do Puma, Siemens, and Carrefour have to do with Israel's ongoing war on Gaza? Does abandoning their products really make a difference in bringing the plight of Palestinians to an end? Since October, boycott, divestment, and sanctions has seen a huge surge in global support. The Palestinian-led movement has been calling for pressure on companies that profit from Israel's occupation. But can BDS bring about real change? And if so, how? Here to discuss this with us are Saleh Hijazi, apartheid-free policy coordinator at BDS, who joins us from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank, Alice Samson Estepe, formerly the European campaigns coordinator for BDS, joining us from Barcelona, and Ahmed Bashbash, the founder and developer of the No Thanks app. He's from Gaza, but is currently in Budapest. Thank you all so much for joining us here on the stream today. Ahmed, I want to start with you. You're very much part of this movement, so much so that you created an app, No Thanks, that helps consumers figure out which brands to boycott. Can you tell us why you actually created this app?
The idea of it with two different approach. The first approach, it was like when I was in the store, I wanted to buy some stuff, but like I didn't know which one to boycott, which one I'm not supposed to buy. So it got to me this idea, but I didn't do anything about it till in the 31st of November, when I lost my brother. Then I was like, okay, I think now it is the time for me to make something for my country, as I am in abroad and I'm not in my country, and I lost my brother there, and before it I lost my sister too. So I was like, okay, I think it is time now to do this, the app, and make it in their behalf, like a charity work for them.
So this was actually motivated by massive personal loss. Today, when you see the app working, do you feel as though this is your way to pay homage to your sister and to your brother?
United States.
Yes, actually, I when I saw, like, for example, now I have in the Play Store around 119,000 downloads, and a lot of people are waiting for the iOS version and these things. I feel like I did something to my brother who I lost and my sister. Even it is like a very small thing, but still count.
Saleh, BDS is not an organization, is a movement, is a tactic that has been around actually for some 20 years. Can you tell us about the origin of this? How did it all start?
If you decide to boycott the state of Israel.
It's perhaps the most concrete form of a foreign government's interference with the U.S.'s democratic process that I'm aware of.
37 U.S. states have enacted some form of anti-boycott, divestment, sanctions, or BDS legislation. It typically requires parties signing contracts with the state government not to engage in a boycott of Israel.
Even to apply for such a contract, I had to first sign a pledge saying that I would not boycott Israel, or not only Israel, get this, Israel or any territory it controls.
Thank you, everybody.
Saqib Ali, a former member of the Maryland House of Delegates, sued the state in 2019 with the Council on American Islamic Relations after the Republican governor at the time signed an anti-BDS executive order.
Governor and Attorney General of Maryland violated my civil rights. You're signing under penalty of perjury that you're not boycotting Israel. It may not be enforced, it may not be prosecuted, but you run the risk of being convicted of a serious crime, and you could go to jail.
The case was ultimately dismissed on a technicality, meaning the court did not rule on the actual constitutionality of the matter.
Because I didn't apply for a contract and I wasn't denied a contract, that I did not have standing to sue. So somebody else might.
There have been several courts across the United States that have reached the most important question here. Does the Constitution, does the First Amendment forbid states, the federal government, from passing laws that target the anti-BDS movement?
I want to thank all Texans for the support.
In Texas, a federal court struck down the entirety of the Texas law after our client, Bahia Amawi, was asked to sign a contract that asked her to promise Israel that she wouldn't boycott.
But the state simply passed a new law that applies to companies instead of individuals.
Even when the laws allow for free speech, there needs to be a social climate that allows folks to freely express their views.
But 2 months into heightened tensions and rhetoric surrounding the Israel-Hamas war, that climate may not be now. Yasmin Al-Sabawi, TRT World, Washington.
Well, as you see now, we see with these videos that these people have always had a hand behind when it comes to black people and other thing that boycotts is basically the Zionists control Israel. I mean, the Zionists have made influence in this country. You see, the Zionists that had a big thing with the Black Americans, civil rights groups that they funded, and that's what they put the division in the black community. Yup. What is really interesting about the study that these same organizations really don't fight for black people when it comes to situations like, then they pick and choose, like to go after someone, people like the university, Northwestern University. They would pick and choose when it comes to something like that. It's just, you see that where you go, and the reason why they keep saying anti-Semite, people are just getting fed up with it, you know. And then it's like they're going to try to punish the people who, like it is here, and like it is, boycott. And I made a video about this. That it's going to come back and hurt on them, because it's going to hurt the Zionists, and the Zionists going to hurt their own business in the end, and all those who's connected, because even though the billions and millions of dollars ain't going solve the problem. Right now, the biggest thing going on is the products that's going over up into Israel. Yet the Yemen has people over there called the Houthis. They're stopping their ships, companies from bringing their ships up there to drop off their market, and they can't go into Israel. If they do, they attack them. So you got all these companies coming from all over the world, and this group of people are, no, you can't, and warning companies, do not bring your ship up through that canal. If not, we're going to attack you. And they attack every ship to the point that it shut stuff down. British Petroleum, was something on the news here that they had to slow down. And I wonder what the design is, how long it's going to take. It's coming down. Everywhere where their hands is, that part of them group of people is in Israel is coming down. We know it's not all Jewish people, but it's the ones that's doing this. And then they don't even care if they sacrifice the people over there, just innocent hostages. This, it's Netanyahu who's in their government. That's what it comes down to, and it even costs. And they're trying to, and this man is determined to try to think that he's going to eradicate Hamas. You can't eradicate them. He's not just fighting Hamas. He's fighting up against 4 or 5 groups of people that's in Palestine. That's fighting against the soldiers. Then you got Iran. Iran is attacking you. Lebanon is backing up by Iran. Then you have Syria. So he made the whole Arab world, because he's trying to and even though he's so-called going after Hamas, he's taking out innocent civilians, and they're not doing a thoroughly thing, because the fighters is around the hostages. How you gonna get the hostages away from the Hamas fighters and these other groups of people? And he's not thinking. So he just don't care. And that's what the people are so angry about. It's just irresponsible. It's just got some people got this like this big. Well, just nuke them. Let's just drop. You can't do something like that. And that's the way he's operating. And now I was watching what Hamas has made the world flip on Israel. And now you get the world get angry because they attacked on the hospitals and things. This Zionism is going, they're crumbling, and the hands is crumbling, and it's bad. And then innocent people, hopefully that don't happen in different parts of the world, and here in America, simply because they're Jewish, because of Netanyahu. That's the truth. So, and this is going on and on. And and then how some people be so arrogant, just to kind of rise up, think that we're gonna take back control. No, this is a new day. Them days are over. And now what they simply did against Hamas. I can understand people getting upset because with Hamas launch and hit innocent civilians over there. I get that, but there was a certain way you could approach this situation. But they didn't. They just started bombing the hospital. So what happened was, by they doing something like that, they didn't ignite half the Arab world. Now, these people be like, they don't seem like you care, but you got all these Arab countries are rising up, and it's not just Syria, Lebanon, and Iran, and Yemen. You have Algeria that want to get in the fight, and a couple other countries that want to join in the fight against Israel. So what does it come down to? Basically, Netanyahu, the way they're looking at it, you just made their plan come to pass, and maybe they might think, with some people, I don't think all Muslims think like this, but that's like a sign of war, what they call jihad. So now, whatever is in I believe some people say in the Quran, and I think that it's stirring up something in their spirit to do this. But and that you jumping on these Arabic speaking people and just bombing them and not disregarding their life. And then by you bombing and disregarding their life, trying to put so-called pressure on them to bring the hostages, you made the situation even worse. There's been about 4 or 5 hostages that lost their life already, along with his military. all they had to do is somehow negotiate with them. If it comes down to let them have the two-state solution. This ain't worth all this. I mean, the people, that's all I gotta say about that. But yeah, now you see how it all connects. That's how deep their hand is in. This is how and we're one of the groups of people. When it comes to black people, I don't know why anybody we in the way to be casualty of their politics and situation. I don't know why. Somehow we get wrapped up into it. Decide who you gonna bring your energy to, who you gonna support, us or them. That's what they do in the black community. Hey, we ain't even considered as equal on either side. We're not even considered 3/5 of a human being. You play like they're your friend, but you heard little instances otherwise, and I played past videos about that. But here's the thing now, it's going to backfire. And it's going to backfire on President Biden, too, his election. Because, this was common sense that you have Arab Americans that got relatives over there is in the Middle East. They have family. And you're doing that to their family. And their friends and families here. They're American citizens. And he's not going back in the White House after this. Because there's a certain population, like I said to them, there's a lot of Muslims in this country, especially Arab American Muslims, and they got when it comes to Islam, they got that bond, man. The Muslims got that bond. Black Muslims too, whether they're black or white, they're part of the same spirit. I'm trying to tell y'all, man. And it makes a lot of sense. But anyway, I didn't want to make this too long. But yeah, at what cost? We gotta keep giving money out. And then when they gonna just let people be people? Why they have to be control over everything and everybody? Because now it's being revealed who they really are. And that's why I just wanted to point out in this video. But shout out to the content creators for the ones that kind of borrowed their material from. But just had to make a point. What's going on? Why is it that you have to punch somebody simply because it's a freedom of speech? And it's like, oh, we turn it and we flip it into politics. They'll flip it against you. Just because you don't get things your way. Then you hurt them, hurt their company. And there's even people they're going to try to hurt some college students who protest. Hurt their careers when they graduate from college. And every other people, they do this. And this is what Zionism is doing. And that makes the people bitter at Jewish people. Not like Jewish people very well and say horrible things. Because that's a bully tactic. And if you break down somebody where you put them in a reclusive state, they're going to launch and attack you. And I think that was the case with the Palestinians over there. And for what the report says, they have been going through. First, they make an agreement with them 30, 40 years ago that they do. Then Israel don't honor what they do with their land. So we're gonna push the people out. But what about this contract you have with us? We don't care. We're gonna move you out. So they move them out. People lose their land. They use their military to move them out, and it create this situation. And that's when all these Hamas and all these other groups start popping up. And it all comes back to, and it was Jewish people said one time that they used to live piece to piece aside with the Arabs. But ever since this Zionism is brought by, since the state of Israel, look what it's in. It has not been peace in the land. There's no peace. And here we were told this in church. That's God's land, and we're supposed to be thinking that the people in the land is people. So they had to put their stuff in the book to say that we the chosen people. But it's the chosen people. There would be peace in the land, not downtrodden. Because right now it's war like crazy in Israel. There's no peace. There's no peace whatsoever. And one group is driving out the other and trying to bully the other, which, again, it goes back to this. They're all Muslims. They come out of the bond. And if you jump on them, it's like you jumping on someone's brother. It's like family. You jump on my family, I'm going to jump on you. That's how they looking at it. That's how they look at it. And they look at, and the United States is backing them up and saying, then they trying to come at things around the United States. That puts us in the middle of a war because of Netanyahu. And they already said that we just today on the news that the military is short here. So as the White House been giving all that aid to Ukraine, and it's shorting our military. Nice going. I don't know what they're thinking at the White House. But yeah, all of the cost of Zionism. Nice going, guys. So, yeah, you put your own, none of that, you put your own fellow Israelis and Jews in danger. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Alright then, guys, take care. Hope you see you on this video. Like and subscribe and share and be blessed.